This is Vasudev Panda. Welcome to Master of English. The class, the portrait of Lodi, completed. Aji, तार जो टेक्स्ट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर अच्छे पिले से टेक्स्ट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर डिस्कशन करिवा वन यूनिट आफ्टर अनदर यूनिट जेतिक प्रश्न अच्छी सबुतक प्रश्न बुझिबा प्रश्न को एवं तार उत्तर केमती हबो को पैटर्न रे हबो से ऊपर आलोचना करिवा तो आम जदि देखुचे निश्चित भाव भिडियो को शेयर करदे जहाँफल सब पिला जॉइन हो पारे क्लास को ये सन तो बिले प्रथम प्रश्न किसी एभली अच्छी why was it hard for the author to believe that his the grandmother was once young and pretty तो कहीं ऑथर विश्वास करि पार नथिले जे तांकर ग्रांडमा तांकर जेजेमा सी गोटे माने एमती गोटे समय रे यंग एंड प्रेटी भी थिले बोली करी से कारण कौन थिला तो एठी तार कारण बहुत सहज आमे समस्त जानी थिबा बिकॉज अकॉर्डिंग टू द ऑथर शी had seen his grandmother since 20 years and there was no change at all. She was as like she was for the last 20 years. That's why it was hard to believe for him when people were telling she was once been young and pretty. Question number 2 अच्छी बिले question number 2 कौन how did the grandfather appears in his portrait? How did the grandfather appears in his portrait? Grandfather तांको portrait रे किभली देखा जाउतरे तो गोटे शब्द रे आम देखा द ग्रैंडफादर वाज लुकिंग 100 years old and he was wearing big turban and loose fitting clothes and his long beard covered the best part of his chest covered the best part of his chest and he was looking a sort of person who has only who had only children grandchildren. So this was the appearance of the grandfather. Third question, what sort of person did he look in his portrait? What sort of person the grandfather was looking in his portrait? This को भलिया लोक देखा जाउतले. He was just looking like a grandfather who had lots and lots of grandchildren. Question number 4, how does the author portray his grandmother? तांगर ग्रैंड मदर को किभली पोर्ट्रे करिसंती माने ग्रैंड मदर रो अपीयरेंस को किभली से कहिसंती एतरे सो अकॉर्डिंग टू द ऑथर हर ग्रैंडमदर हिज ग्रैंडमदर वाज शॉर्ट एंड फेट एंड स्लाइटली बेंट एंड हर फेस वाज अ क्रीज क्रॉस ऑफ रिंकल्स फुल ऑफ क्रीज क्रॉस ऑफ रिंकल्स रनिंग फ्रॉम हियर टू देयर तापरे क्वेश्चन नंबर 5 अछि व्हाई डज ही से द थॉट वाज ऑलमोस्ट रिवल्टिंग The thought was almost revolting. Why does he say? तसे कहीं की एभली कही चमते because the writer said so. The reason was in when he compared his grandmother with his grandfather looks much older than his grandmother. So that's why the thought was revolting inside him. Question number 6. Question number 6 कौन the grandmother had a divine beauty. How does the author bring this out? So the grandmother always told the beads of a rosary and his lip constantly moved in audible prayer and according to the writer she was a pure expanse of white serenity breathing peace and contentment. Like this, the author wanted to say that his grandmother has a divine beauty. तो ये थिला तुम्हारा प्रथम यूनिट रो प्रश्न. वर्तमान आम देखा द्वितीय यूनिट रो जो प्रश्न सब अच्छे टेक्स्ट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन मन रखा. तो प्रथम प्रश्न हूँ व्हाट आर द ग्रैंडमदर्स रूटीन इन द विलेज. व्हाट वाज द ग्रैंडमदर्स रूटीन इन द विलेज. गाँव रे जेजेमांकर काम कौन थिला तार रूटीन कौन थिला. So the grandmother used to wake the author off in the morning and get him ready for the school, and also she went to school. She was going to school with the author every day. Question number 2. How did the grandmother take care of the writer during his childhood? कि भली जत्न नौथिला. Was she a good companion of the writer in the village? The grandmother taking all care of the author in the village. And yes, according to the text, she was a good companion, good friend at all of the author, as it is mentioned in the text. Question number 3. What lesson did the writer learn from the village priest? Village priest ଠାରୁ ସେମାନେ କ'ଣ ଶିଖୁଥିଲେ? The writer was learning alphabets and morning prayer from the village priest. Alphabet और morning prayer ସେମାନେ ଶିଖୁଥିଲେ. Question number 4. How did the grandmother spend her time at the temple? ମନ୍ଦିରରେ ଜେଜେମା ତାର ସମୟ କିଭଳି ବିତାଉଥିଲା? The grandmother spend her time inside the temple reading scripture. ପୁରାଣ ପଢ଼ିକି ତାର ସମୟ ବିତାଉଥିଲା. Question number 5. Was she a religious person? Yes, grandmother was a religious person. According to the text, she was always telling the bits of rosary. She was always going to the temple with the author. She was reading scripture there. And from this, it is very clear that she was a religious lady. ये थिला यूनिट 2. वर्तमान जीवा यूनिट 3 पाखकु. यूनिट 3 रे कोन अछि बेले why did not the grandmother accompany the writer to school in the city? सहर को गला परे ग्रैंडमदर कहीं की ऑथर सहित स्कूल को जाऊ नथिला. सो हमको लिखिबार अछि that in the city house the author had got admission in an English medium school and she was going there in a bus. That's why the grandmother was not going to the city school. Question number 2. Why could not the grandmother help the writer with his lesson at the city school? City school रे जेजेमा राइटर को कहीं की कौन से प्रकार हेल्प करी पारला नहीं पाठ पढ़ारे. The reason was very simple. She was a old lady. She was not familiar with English and Western science, and the author was being taught in the English medium school Western science and English, which is beyond her knowledge. That's why he was helpless there to teach the writer in the city house. Next question, let us go to another question. Next question is what? Question number 3. What did the lesson at the English school distress grandmother? So the lesson in the English school distressed grandmother because she was a religious lady. She always wanted that her grandchildren must learn about scripture and God. But there was no teaching about God in scriptures. That's why she was upset about the teaching of the city school. Question number 4. Why was she disturbed about music lesson at the English school? She kahin ki disturb feel kala jetebele music lesson ra katha utila. She felt disturbed after listening that the author was being taught music lesson in the school because according to the grandmother, music had lewd association. It is the monopoly of harlot and beggar. Next question. Question number 5. What were the 3 ways in which the grandmother spent her days, when the author went to university? Author university को गला परे को 3टा उपाय रे से तार टाइम स्पेंड करूतला. First one is spinning wheel, second one is reciting prayer, and third one is telling the bits of rosary, feeding sparrows. Telling the bits of rosary, spinning wheels, and feeding the sparrows. These are the 3 ways how she spent her time after the author went to the university. Question number 6. What was the happiest time for the day for her? What was the happiest time for the day for her? समयटा ता पई भल समय थिला. The happiest time of the day for the grandmother was the half an hour where she fed the sparrows. से घर चटिया माननकु जेतेबेले से खुउथला दर the best time according to the text. Last question of unit 3. Unit 3 ର ଶେଷ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ. How did she accept her seclusion? She accepted her seclusion by cutting herself off from other family members. Not communicating with others, not conversating with others. She was spending all alone her time with the spinning wheel, reciting prayer and feeding the sparrows. सो ये थिला यूनिट 3 वर्तमान जीवा शेष यूनिट रो किछि प्रश्न जो प्रश्न तक अछि से प्रश्न तक आलोचना करिबा तापर आज रो क्लास को सारिबा पिले शेष यूनिट रो प्रथम प्रश्न होछि हाउ डिड द ग्रैंडमदर सी द ऑथर ऑफ एट द रेलवे स्टेशन रे छाड़िबा पई केमते आसिला when the writer decided to go abroad or went abroad for higher studies the grandmother told nothing से किछि भी कहला नहीं and when she when they are to see him off at the time she only make a kiss on the forehead of the writer and at that time also she was busy telling the beads of her rosary. Question number 2, how did she receive him when he came back home from abroad? After 5 years, when the author came back from abroad, the same thing was there, same situation was there. The grandmother didn't tell anything to the writer. And, at that time when she clasped the writer, at that time the writer just came to listen the voice. She was telling the beads, how she was telling the beads of her rosary. So, not at all sentimental, not any emotion being shown by the grandmother. Question number 3, what are her happiest moment on the first day of his arrival? Authorଙ୍କର arrival ର ପ୍ରଥମ ଦିନରେ ସବୁଠାରୁ ଖୁସି ମୁହୂର୍ତ୍ତ କ'ଣ ଥିଲା? Same thing, she didn't have a talk with the author on that first day of his arrival. Her pleasure time was the time where she fed the sparrows and no emotion, no sentiment, nothing was there and didn't have a talk also as I have told you earlier. Question number 4, how did she celebrate in his return in the evening? Does her behavior appear appears or to you? Yes. So what do you think? How did she celebrate his return, means author return in the evening? So in the evening there was a great change with the grandmother. What she did there, she collected the neighborhood women folk and collected a dilapidated drums, started singing the homecoming of warriors and started beating the drums. The author and his family, they tried to dissuade him, but she didn't listen at all. Kar kotha bhi sunila nahi. Then question number 5, how did she pass away? She kemti mala. So just telling the beads of her rosary, she was just lying on the bed telling the beads of her rosary, and by the way, what happens, the rosary fell down from his lifeless finger and his leaves stopped moving. And by the way, the author and his family came to know that she was dead. Question number 6, how did the sparrows react when the author's grandmother died? In the evening, when the author and his family, they went to the grandmother's room to carry the corpse off. At the very moment they came to see Radha. Thousands of sparrows were sitting in the veranda till her room, and when they carried that corpse off for cremation, they flew away silently. There was no sound, no chirrumbing, no movement, nothing was there, as they were mourning the death of grandmother. Last question of the day, question number 7. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. What does this line imply? So, this line implies that the sparrows who were fond of the breadcrumbs that is being given by the grandmother, they didn't notice the crumbs being thrown at them by the author's mother. And those breadcrumbs were untouched, unedible, and in the morning when the sweeper came, he threw away all those breadcrumbs into the bin. This means the sparrow were mourning the death of grandmother. That's all. That is all the question and answer. Whatever questions were there in the text, hope you understood. If you have any problem, you can comment me that I can make more simple. Thank you. Stay tuned, Master English. Bye.